high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Talking Catholic. I'm Jen Mauro, and with me today is Mike Bress.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good. I'm excited to be on. This is a long time coming for the two of us, and we...
Okay, wait. I was just about to make a joke about how last time I was on the podcast with Mike Walsh, because I always say, and with me today, as always, is Mike Walsh, and Mike said, that's it, you're getting another co-host. So that's why I was like, oh, and with me today is Mike Bress. I can't even get it out, because who just ran in here like a wild man?
I didn't feel comfortable being replaced. That being said, I did want to let the listeners know, this is the second recording of the intro because someone finally pulled what I can only refer to as, in fact, a Mike Walsh. Because I have twice forgotten to hit the record button to start an interview. And I'm very happy to say that now Mike Bress has been added to that list of someone who forgot to hit the record button until it started. So you have to re-record the intro. Nice job. Nice job for both of you. That tells you you're a true podcaster. You've made that screw up.
Yes.
So I'm very proud of you.
Everybody, we are in the vault.
Yep.
And the vault door was, ajar. Mike Walsh threw open the
That was
vault,
a move.
which is shocking because vault doors are not light, and bolted in here and sat down so excited. He's so excited now.
I had to wait for you guys. I was literally listening outside for you guys to start because I was like, oh man, I got this funny thing to do. I'm going to run in and while they're doing it.
Good thing we didn't talk bad about Mike.
I did hear the conversation about gaslighting. So we do need to have that conversation.
I would say that to your face, so it's okay.
At any rate, I'm not going to remove myself and just let you guys do your own thing.
You just wanted to bomb the
I really did. This is my version of an audio bomb.
Nice.
Audio bomb. Audio bomb. I like audio bomb.
I'm very proud of myself. All right, enjoy.
Well, then we can get that out of the way.
All right.
Yeah, that part is that this is being recorded after the interview because I did, for those listening at home who have never podcasted before, I have two things in front of me, the unit that's called a Zoom that actually records the podcast, and then a timer for us to stay on task. And I hit the timer, but not the record button until I looked up at our guest, looked at Jen, then looked down, and the numbers on the Zoom were not moving, and said, we have to stop and
start over.
So we're doing this after we talk to our guest, but it's still going to be fun, and we can talk about what we talked about before.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
Actually, it's already a blast. We have a blast because we just had a podcast bomber.
Yeah. When this is done, that should be part of the hashtags on the social media post. Hashtag audio bomb.
Audio bomb. I'm writing that down.
Yeah. Let's see how that goes.
So anyway, what's going on with Catholic schools?
Yeah. So, it's as I was saying earlier in our first part of this try. It's an interesting kind of a quiet-ish time for us. In the office, I guess, we're always busy, I should say. And I believe our principals and some of our teachers would say this is not a quiet time, but it's sort of that lull between some of the craziness of, for me, Catholic Schools Week and the Easter season. We do a lot around Holy Week and what the students are doing to prepare for that. And then there's sort of a little bit of a quiet period before graduations, which is, sort of that sprint to the finish line before the end of the school year. So, but
pun intended for the guest.
Yes, truthfully, yes. And a great sports reference that I had to make for our guest. But, but in between, so I actually had a really neat event that we did. This is the second year we've done it, but we did a South Jersey Catholic Schools job fair.
Okay.
So in order to help our schools find teachers, find administration help, secretaries, we found some advancement directors, through this. We tried to, as the office, take on an opportunity to solicit for resumes, cover, letters and open positions, and then have people actually meet our principals in a sort of a setting. So we had it at Camden Catholic High School and at Holy Spirit, 2 events, and really well attended. We had some great candidates come through. I actually had a couple of our principals come up to me at the end and say, I'm calling them tomorrow, because I have a position.
Fantastic.
I have a position or a potential position open that I want to open up for this candidate. So that's great. And, our hope is that if some people choose to leave the schools in the summertime for whatever reason, that is a typical time for them, that it's not panicky. You have this bank of resumes and contacts that you can start with.
Right.
You can put the position out to anyone and everyone, but at least there's somewhere to start. You may have already even interviewed that person once in sort of this setting. So that was exciting. I really liked that event, and I'm excited to see where we go with that sort of for the future. So that was the big thing. And then, we'll get done that, and there'll be some May crownings, and some fun field days stuff in the month of May, but all I'm really looking towards is graduation.
That's always the big one for the Catholic Star Herald too. But if people are interested for working for South Jersey.
So we have a careers page on our website. It's southjerseycatholicschools.org. And when you go right to the homepage there, right at the top, it says careers. And I think the / is actually employment. But if you go to the main homepage and click careers, it lists what's currently open, as well as an opportunity just to send us your resume. And you could even fill out one of the diocesan applications. You can get it all sent directly to us. We put it into a folder for our principals to access.
Nice.
And each week we kind of just check in with them, see what they have open, what they're looking for. Hopefully we see a hired, on our tracking sheet from this opportunity. But yeah, please, we're always looking for great new candidates. Join our team, have some fun in Catholic school education. We want you to be a part of it.
That sounds good.
How about for you?
So Catholic Star Herald, it's a non-production week for us, but that does not mean we're not busy. Actually, sometimes we're busier in the non-production weeks because we're getting ready for the next issue. So for all of our readers, we just put out the vocations issue at the end of April, which had featured all of our seminarians for the Diocese of Camden. And now we're working on a 36 to 40 page paper of jubilarians. Yep. So, our priests who are celebrating milestone anniversaries. But also you'll see some coverage in the upcoming issue of the recent inclusion mass, which was down in Ocean City. And that was such a beautiful event. It's a mass that is held by Vitality Catholic Healthcare Services. And, they work with local parishes for ministries, with ministries that are for low sensory masses, for those with learning challenges or autism. Mm-hmm. And so this mass specifically, the church was completely full. This was on Sunday, the Sunday before. Everybody's probably listening to this, and church was completely full of families, kids of all ages, from little kids to adults, and it was just a great mass. It was so great because it's a learning experience, for both. It's for the families who have those loved ones with autism or learning challenges. They might feel embarrassed to go to church because it might not be quiet. Yes. Right. And so they might feel like they're not welcome, but that's completely not the truth at all. They're always welcome. Yes. And for the other side that might not experience that in their daily life, they get to see the families and that this is what you live with and this is what you can teach us, like how to be more inclusive to your needs. Yeah, so it's really beautiful. And there was this young woman there. I would say she was in her early 30s. She has autism, and she happened to have a Catholic Star Herald with her. It was the vocations issue, and she just wanted to talk about who all the seminarians were, and then she asked me to sign the paper because I was there reporting, so she saw that. And then Deacon Jerry Jablanowski was there, and she asked him to sign the paper, and Father Mohan was there from Atlantic City. She asked him to sign the paper, and it was adorable because I was like, it made me feel good too, so
sort of famous, right?
Yeah, so it was a win. Really, it was a win-win for everybody. So check out the next issue. Beautiful photos by Lori Nichols, one of our photographers, and then also after that, Pete Sanchez and I went to the Afternoon of Jazz for the Black Catholic Ministry Commission, which is where past students of scholarships to go to our Catholic schools are recognized and. Right before the new ones will be announced.
That's amazing. Yeah,
it was pretty good.
Packed weekend for you.
It was a packed weekend. So I got a beautiful mass, new friends, and then I danced to some sweet To the Max, man. That band. Shout out to the Max.
Yes, you've mentioned them before.
I love this band. Yeah. And so it was good stuff.
There has been talk that if you were to not remarry, but to marry your husband again, which is not necessarily the definition of remarry, that you would have them as your band, correct?
Band, I have said that.
No, that's incredible. I mean, I can say I love helping to check out the paper on production days, and it is a good time to see what stories are being previewed, but then read the final, sort of drafts, the final copies, and see what comes together. We have such a rich
We do.
diocese full of great stories and things of that nature. So it's really incredible.
And speaking of which, we are going to have 2 ordinations coming
Yes.
up. So for anybody who could come out to the churches, or please check it out on live stream on May 11th in St. Joseph, Sea Isle City at 10:30 a.m. We have our seminarians, Timothy Moranen and Tommy Piero, are going to both be ordained by Bishop Sullivan to the transitional diaconate. And then we have our deacon,
Yes.
Ricardo Lozano Cruz. He's going to be ordained to the priesthood on May 18th at Camden's Cathedral at 10:30. So check it out. We'll have great content. Come to the ordinations, live stream it on all our diocesan platforms. So speaking about the Catholic Star Herald, we have a very esteemed guest with us today who, if you are an avid reader, and I hope you are, he takes up a good 2 to 3 pages every issue, and I love it. So,
And most of my Instagram feed at this point.
actually mine too, now that I think about it. With us today is our sports correspondent, Mark Zimmaro. Hey, Mark.
Hi, Jen and Mike. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Great. I love talking about how you had that big edition. I knew it was going to be a big edition coming up because you started asking me for the athletes of the month before the month was even over. But we're working on it.
Good point. That's a good point. I didn't even think about it. Then you were like, and then I was like, we're going to have X amount of pages. And Mark writes back, is that a lot of pages? I'm like, Mark has no context. So
Right.
I just pretend that you're like my right arm. You don't even know it, but you are my right arm.
I'm happy to provide whatever you need.
So, so you've been keeping your finger on the pulse of the sports of our South Jersey Catholic schools for quite a while. And what's new and exciting in Catholic school sports these days?
It's good to be outside again
Yes.
after a long winter and a pretty good April weather-wise for the most part. A little chilly, but overall we're getting some good weather. So yeah, baseball, softball, lacrosse, track and field. We even saw some rowing. We're going to dive into a lot of that stuff. But yeah, super exciting. Main thing that comes to my head always in springtime is baseball.
Yep.
You just think spring training, all that stuff. And we have some of the best baseball in the state with Gloucester Catholic and some other good teams we can talk about too that we cover. But Gloucester Catholic is the defending state non-public B champions, and they're undefeated this year through April, 13-0, and they look unbeatable again. I mean, they lost so many good kids, and they just reload the younger kids coming up and just taking the reins, and they look like they haven't missed a beat. It's really fun to watch.
What is some of that attributed to, you think? Like just, also besides coaches and the other team members stepping up?
Oh, yeah. It's just the culture of that program.
Yeah.
I mean, they go back so long. They've won 20 state championships,
Right,
which I think is the most in the state. Coach Barth has been there for a long time. He actually left and came back. They pulled him right back in. But,
Already a good reference. Well,
yes.
This is going to be a good podcast.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to skip a beat. I mean, the kids really buy into what they teach there, and they like each other. And you have all these kids that are going to Division I colleges, and there's no egos. It's really great. They like each other, and they pull each other up. It's really something.
And I imagine community-wise, I think about the area around that sends kids to Gloucester Catholic. That's very baseball heavy, and I imagine he's, a recognized kind of person, and they look up to the kids that go there, right? They've got brothers that or cousins that went to that program, and it's a great thing for the school. I mean, for all of the schools, obviously, but them especially. I just know Gloucester City especially has always had a storied sort of like baseball program, Little League and up. So, if you go public or Catholic, summertime, springtime is baseball season for them.
And their field's right in the middle of a neighborhood there. So you can just, the neighbors come out, they're leaning over the fence watching, it's a little different. But
That's really cute.
Yeah,
Actually.
it's an old school feel. That's there. It's always been, I remember the days, even living in Camden. That was small, potatoes in Little League compared to what was just across, sort of the small bridge there over 676. They've always just had, but it's a community, like you said, it's a neighborhood. It's still one of those traditional, there's a baseball field a couple blocks away, and that's where you play, right? Yeah. So,
speaking of community, I have to take a step back because I just jumped into sports because I'm excited and Mark's here. But For those who don't know, Mark does not just work for the Catholic Star Herald.
No.
Why don't you fill people in a little bit about where else they can find you, and then I'll bug you and ask you more personal questions.
Yeah, in fact, after here, I'm jumping right over the bridge to South Philly, where my main job is. I work for the South Philly Review, and I do a little bit of community news, and I've brought in high school sports to that, which wasn't covered much there, but now they have me, so they're stuck with it. So I'll be covering South Philly High. They're undefeated over in the Philadelphia Public League, so that'll be really exciting. And also Newman Goretti in the Philadelphia Catholic League is another great program. So, they keep me on my toes over there.
Okay.
And then aside from the Catholic Star Herald, I also do some freelance work for Philly Sports Digest, which is an online publication. They cover the Philadelphia Catholic League and the Interact League and the Friends School League.
So, like I just said, you are like my right arm, and yet you have 3 jobs and 2 kids.
2 kids.
One of which is kind of a newborn.
Yes.
Yeah.
We welcomed William Edward Zimmaro on January 5th. So, yes, I have one that's going to be 3, Joseph, in the summertime. They're actually they're one day off of being exactly 6 months apart.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Joey is the July 6th. He's a 76er.
Oh, there you go. Very cool. Good today. Wouldn't have been very funny if
Right.
the game did not go the way it did. For recording purposes, this is the day after Game 5.
Yes. So they have kept me on my toes, yes.
Yeah.
So it's very busy around the Zimmaro household.
So, for those keeping score at home, as I like to say, Mark has 3 jobs, 2 kids, a house, and a wife. I do have no kids, but 4 cats and a husband, and I still need Mark with my right arm.
To get all that
You
done.
know who's the multitasker here and who is not.
Actually, 2 houses. I also keep a duplex in the city
Rub
that
it in.
I'm a handyman down there as well. So, yeah, very busy.
All right, rub it in.
I have to ask, because I'm a father of 2 boys in the 18-month span from each other as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is the older one in a jealousy or acceptance stage at this point?
He's an acceptance
Okay.
stage. Yeah, we had a little party over the weekend. Not to brag, but it was my birthday.
Oh, there we go. Happy birthday.
And Joey, who's about to be 3, we had all the family over. So as I was putting him to bed that night, I asked him who were his favorite people, because I knew a lot of them were there.
Yeah.
So number 1 was his cousin Ryan.
Shout out, Ryan.
Number 2 was his nanny.
Oh, absolutely.
Then we had his other cousin, his aunt, his uncle, his mom, baby Bill,
Okay.
and then me. I came in 8th place, I
All right,
believe.
that's all right.
So I'm,
Top 10, though.
I'm moving up.
And probably because of your birthday.
Yeah, I
let's-
know.
you good.
I gave him cake that
Yeah,
night,
I was going to
so
say, that chalks you at least 2 spots on the list.
On a regular day, I don't know if you did that top 10.
No, I'm
I
not
don't
cracking
think
that
you're
top
cracking
10 on a normal day. But
we have a picture from when my younger son was born, and it was the first time that they brought my older son Luke to the hospital to see us. And to preface this, my wife went into labor like in the middle of the night for our second child, so he was asleep and we left, and my mother-in-law came over, and so when he woke up, my mom was there, not us, to wake him up. So he, she told him, and he could kind of understand. Again, he's a year and a half, how much he really understands, as long as you keep his routine. But we brought him, and he's dressed in this like polo shirt and these shorts and real cute. And he sits on the bed, and we took this picture of my wife holding the baby and him sitting there, and he is just looking at the television that's off camera. And just sitting next to her, he had nothing to do with him. He was like, I just got to see my mom. This is nice. We'll deal with that later.
We'll address this later.
Yeah. But then once he brought him home, it was this, would you like to see my baby? That's what he would tell people when they would come over. So, and they're still close. I mean, you'll experience all of the wonderful, the playing outside for a couple minutes, and then something breaks and it was someone else's fault, and then the fight ensues.
yeah.
or continues for that matter.
This morning was just the meltdown for no reason.
Yep.
It was, I think I stirred his oatmeal wrong.
As you do. I mean,
literally
yeah.
just...
Number 8. I mean, what else?
It went I know.
I mean, come on.
I was
Checked it.
number 8.
I was gonna say,
I'm out of the
check
top
today.
10 now.
Yeah.
There's always next year, Mark.
Yeah. Good try though, honestly.
All right, now we get back to sports.
Yeah,
we just
yeah.
had to touch
Make
base on
sure
that.
that-
Sure.
Well, on that is Well, he's only 3. I mean, is there any inclination to put him in like T-ball soon or any of that stuff?
We were doing some soccer classes
Okay,
over the winter time. In the one mall near us, they just have a little space rented out with some turf and stuff. So he was taking it out a little bit, but we're trying. We get out there and play different stuff, but he doesn't. He doesn't get
no
any
inclination
yet.
Yeah.
He's going to be he'd be good in baseball, I think, because he's going to be a left-hander.
Oh yeah,
He definitely favors his left
Yeah.
hand, so he's got a future in a couple sports if he can.
And keep that, because I have contended lately, and I'll make sure my wife listens to this episode so that she knows that I'm accusing her of this. I swear that my younger son had an affinity for his, because I'm left-handed, and I swore he had an affinity for his left hand, and she started to notice that and put more stuff in his right hand because now he's right-handed. And I don't have physical evidence to attribute this to. It's just my own memories, and I just I look at him now and some of the things that he does that he looks awkward, with the right hand, and he picks it up. I mean, it's fine, and he writes very well at all. But I think sometimes just to go over him, and go, use the other one. Let's just see. Maybe I can get you back, because there's some value in that.
Oh, even in soccer, he was left footer, and they're trying to do all these passing drills, and he wants no part. He just wants to go up and kick the ball as hard as he can into the net. And I just said to the coach, I'm like, hey, he's a left-footed scorer. There's a place for that.
Yeah. And I, going into the other sports, because one of them that spring's my favorite, I think, sports-wise. Even though I'm a huge basketball fan, I was a track and field guy. So I was excited to talk about track and field with you, because I haven't in a while gotten a chance to really deep dive into it again. But that's the hardest thing for left-handers, is the world of living in a right-handed world, for especially sports like that, where they're not sure how to turn their bodies and, and try to teach you things, because I mean, in another sport that's in the spring that we'll probably get to, golf, that it's hard to teach someone that when you're a right-hander. I mean, I tried javelin, and I remember my coach looking at me and trying to do this, and I said, "It's all right, coach. I'm just going to go run a couple more laps." I never picked up a javelin because they couldn't do it. They just didn't know how to show that difference.
Speaking of golf, I just went to a driving range in my old neighborhood because I was there for the duplex and everything. I had a little time to kill, and they totally redid it. How they have it's all mechanical now. How the ball comes up and all that. Yeah. And I'm taking video, and I'm showing it to my one friend who's a left-handed golfer, and he's just like, "Oh, that looks awesome. They got lefty ones there too?" And I'm like, No, they don't. Nope,
not for us.
For us righties.
Nope. You got to move the ball over, just like the rest of the world.
Rough.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That'd be fun to see if they pick it up. With your, I mean, you get such exposure to all of these things to see what they end up enjoying, right?
Yeah. We'll see.
Now, the other teams in the diocese, I think I'm trying to remember some of the articles that I read during proofing day, and then once they're done in the paper. Camden Catholic rebuilding but doing well. Paul VI, same. I'm trying to remember.
Over the last couple of years, we've done some stories on Camden Catholic and Paul VI baseball programs, and they're both on the way up.
Yeah.
And last year was more talk of it and seeing some signs. They're starting to show some results now.
Yeah.
Both teams are around 500. Even Paul VI was a little better than that. Really starting to compete with some of these other teams.
That's great.
In fact, I believe. Was Paul VI beat Bishop Eustace this year?
That's what I remember. Yeah,
and Bishop Eustace is 10-3.
I was going to say they're usually another good squad. Yeah.
So I mean, maybe they caught him on an off day, but that's still a great win. To post. And then I believe it was Camden Catholic turned around and beat Paul VI. So
right.
It shows they could be right there too.
Yeah. And baseball isn't any given. I mean, the terms in football of any given Sunday, but really it's any given day how the guys are pitching, hitting, all that kind of stuff.
And St. Augustine gave Gloucester Catholic quite a run. Was it over the weekend? It was like a 1-0 extra innings game. They're right there. So it's going to be real fun when it comes playoff time. And
on the flip, what's the softball outlook looking like?
Softball, we have some real good teams. It's the usual suspects. Gloucester Catholic, again, a good team, even though their main stud graduated last year, their pitcher, but they're filling in nicely kind of by committee with pitching and, real strong lineup. We have a girl, I don't want to spoil it, but an athlete of the month coming up from Gloucester Catholic who's a sophomore, and she's just having a great year.
May 10th edition.
May 10th edition.
You
Check
won't
it out.
know the name until then.
And Paul VI has another good team this year. Holy Spirit doing some good things. Our Lady of Mercy doing some real good things. Wildwood Catholic taking a little bit of a step back, but small schools, so that they go in waves more than anybody else. But they'll be back. Mm-hmm. But overall, some good teams in softball.
Yeah, so. And so I'm going to put it up at the next one because on my top 10, it's number 1, track and field. Mm-hmm. They just had the Penn Relays over the weekend, which was exciting. We actually ended up having a couple of our elementary schools actually participate. Yeah. So have you ever been down there?
I have, yeah. When I was at my former job at the Burlington County Times, I would pretty much go every year.
Okay.
Just cover all the Burlington County teams, and I was doing video at that time.
Yeah.
So it's a hectic place, but you could set your watch to the events. It runs on time. It is amazing how they do that. They herd in all those kids through these.
Jen asked me to kind of give her a brief on it.
And I was about to say, Mark, can you explain what the Penn Relays are? For those who don't understand, asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of the oldest and most prestigious track events in the country, and it's a big high school event, but there's also colleges there, some elementary schools, as we talked about. And if you go on, usually the Saturday, they have some of the
professionals,
is that what you would call it? But you get these Jamaican runners, and the crowds are amazing.
Yes.
The place roars when these people come around the turns.
Yeah, I told Jen about the sort of Jamaican contingent, and it's a whole section of Franklin. So it's at Franklin Field,
right,
and on the University of Penn's campus, hence Penn Relays. But it's this older stadium. It's humongous, and there's an entire section of music, cheering, and just the joyfulness. You just want to go hang out there, while you're there. And they do, I was trying to describe to Jen. I said, it's like a cattle shoot. I mean, there's like a warm up area. They're like, okay, this is this number race. Get on the track. You run it. They get you off somewhere. There's a picture and a medal and a trophy, and then you're out. And it's all on time. I mean, I've experienced meets that go sometimes half an hour delay of however many races and versions there are. They're holding for this weather, whatever. If it says that on the schedule, you are minutes, if that, on that.
If you're not ready, they go without you.
Yep.
There's a lot you'll see on the stat sheets. There's a lot of did not show or did not qualify, because if you're not there, they're not waiting. They're not paging you over the loud system or whatever.
Who were some of our big winners for South Jersey middle schools or elementary schools?
Yeah, I'm just catching up on it now, but Christ the King won both the boys and the girls events. They have their own Diocese of Camden events.
Yeah.
So it's all our schools
in
there. And,
I think there were 8.
I believe there were 8
on each side, which was great. I mean, I've been able to follow it a little bit. I tried to convince my kids to do it this year, and they have not. My wife was a runner too, and they did not follow us in the running, not yet. But St. Margaret's had a team, Resurrection had a team, and they all did really well. And it's the 4x100, which is a relay. So 4 kids get to run 100 meters each. And Christ the King was flying. I mean, again, you talk about communities where stuff thrives. You live in the Haddonfield area. You can't walk to a coffee shop or restaurant without someone running by you. I would imagine.
Especially if you want to drive home. All ages. And I don't know if I should say this, but now I'm going to say it. It is like the town of the shorts.
Oh, yes.
Because it's like those 1980s running shorts, like those David Hasselhoff Baywatch. And I'm like, when I first moved, I was like, oh my, does everybody in this town run? Because I have moved to the wrong town. As you said, I am walking to the coffee shop for like the 5th time. I'm like, what? But and it was really good to see. I think Mark and I were talking earlier how many kids of ours ended up in the Penn Relays overall. It was over 40, I think we determined.
Like that. So I'm a little behind on my reporting. I'm due to do my interviews over the next few days, but it's, I mean, anytime you can go on that type of stage, it's such an experience.
It's so cool. It's neat for the kids, and when it's nice weather like it was for that, I mean,
you don't always get that.
No, not there, and it's it's a cool experience for the kids that they'll remember. I had the opportunity to do it in high school and college, and it's you blink and you're done, but just being around it is is so neat. So that's really cool. How about just in the regular sort of as they say, the dual and tri-meet season.
Yeah, they're still in relay part of the season.
Yeah,
so
Woodbury coming up, so the Woodbury relays.
They just happened.
Right?
So, it's kind of tough to really gauge how the individuals are doing because they're all part of relays.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
you get to see some of the field event people stick out a little bit. We had a kid from Camden Catholic that just broke a couple school records, Sanders. And the kid from Bishop
Will Sanders,
Eustace,
I think, right? I think it's Will Sanders.
I forget the first name.
Okay.
You got to forgive me there. But
right.
but there's a kid from Bishop Eustace that's a real good discus thrower. Probably going to be a state champion this year.
Wow,
nice.
That's great.
Non-public B. Sean Brady, he's just phenomenal. He was actually one of the few high school kids we had at the Penn Relays.
Oh, okay.
So he competed against kids from all over the country. And I believe he came in like 6th or something like that.
That's incredible.
He's right there. So I mean, I believe there's one kid in the state that throws farther than him, but he's not in the same.
So they wouldn't meet until later.
Yeah, they wouldn't meet till the meet of champions.
Yeah.
So he's pretty much a shoe-in to at least come very close to being a state champion and probably placing in the meet of champions as one of the top 6 kids in the state.
Even though it's relay season, which I do remember early on, it was very much about that. Is there any, for me, because I was a distance guy, anybody that's standing out, guy or girl in the, I know there's Paul the Six has the cross country runner.
Yeah,
I'm
I was just
sure
going to
she's going to be
say,
flying.
Jen knows that name, Shaylin McNair.
Oh, yeah.
She's been an athlete of the month quite a few times for us because she runs cross country, she runs track, so she gets in there both, and winter track.
Yeah,
so she just runs all year, and she's phenomenal. She just had I don't remember exactly what race. Maybe it was Woodbury or wherever Paul the Sixth was this past week, and she finished first by 30 seconds in the 2 mile. It was crazy.
Yeah, which for the listeners, that's a long distance between two runners
she's
for a distance.
Her breath, but before anybody else
she's got her shirt back. She's got her warm ups back on, getting ready to go. Unfortunately, but that's great. I mean, that was. This time of year it's tough because you get cold days, and if you did indoor track, or as we used to call it was still called winter track, because actually in my conference you would do some, they called them I'm trying to think now, it's like igloo runs, or essentially it was outside. If it was warm enough, quote unquote warm enough, you could run on a regular spring track, outdoor track, in between the indoor meets. So that was always a good transition if it was cold in April for some of these races, because it's not always as nice as it is. So
hopefully we're into that good weather now.
Stay in that range.
Noah Sanders, by the way. I looked it up.
Noah Sanders.
Look, I did not want to spread false information on the podcast. So Noah Sanders. Yes.
So I'm going through the list. You mentioned lacrosse, right? Is a big one. So is that guys and girls?
Yes.
Okay.
2 different sports though.
Right.
It's very different.
Very different.
It's not like baseball, softball kind of thing where the rules are the same.
Relative.
It's very different. But in boys lacrosse, St. Augustine's got a real good team again. Holy Spirit. I got to check in on Camden Catholic, and they're one of the fun up and coming teams now. Joe Bayloney is the new coach there. His son was actually on the team, I want to say last year or the year before, and is now at Clemson. So it's kind of odd that dad's coming in after the kid leaves, but he's really taken a hold of this program, and it's another one of those the kids are buying in. And they're off to a good start. They started off 4-4 so far. They did just lose their goalie to an injury, which is a shame because it's one of the kids that hits me up for photos on Instagram. And he shared with me that he tore his, I believe, his meniscus or something like that. So he's done for the season, which is unfortunate because he's a good goalie. Ben Truong is his name. But, they got a lot of good players on that team. Patrick Kelly, we just had a story on. There's a couple Leahys on the team that I found out are not related, which is interesting.
Because that's a...
Remember that for proofing?
Yes, we would have to call it 2 different families.
Yes, it was because I believe one of the moms of one of them hit me up for a photo, or she was actually just telling me I had a nice photo of her son, and I was like, it's funny because when I looked at the roster, I saw the 2 Leahys. They both play offense. They're both real good. So I was trying this whole time to get this celebration shot of the two of them. And I got this great one of they're up high-fiving. I'm like, I got this great one I could send you. The other one's your son too. And she's like, no relation.
I mean, I'll keep the photo.
Yeah,
but I don't know who this
still-
other kid is.
Still a good photo, but that was disappointing.
That's so funny.
That kind of brings up a point. Like, you're out there all the time, and people know you when you're on the field.
Sometimes.
And they, like you said, they follow you on social, and they're like, "Oh, we saw Mark's photo."
Yeah.
Is it hard to remember everybody you've met?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I know, you like that.
my
Put you on the spot.
My
but-
brain's only at like 50% capacity
Yeah.
with a newborn at home too, so
Yeah.
that plays into it too. But you do as best you can. Some are more memorable, but they're.
We're going to play a quick game. We've got a couple people here. We just want you to know. Visual gag for the for
By the way,
audio
I'm the
medium.
worst at it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I could meet you, and 1 minute later, I'll be like, "Hi, I'm Jen," and literally introduce myself again. And I've done it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I do the, hey, yeah, of course. How are you? And then it'll take me a couple minutes until I figure out where we know each other
Yeah.
from. But yeah, I can't imagine with the breadth of coverage that you have that someone comes up, because it's easier for them to know you
Right.
than vice versa, right? So, and you're carrying around equipment, right?
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
not
usually if I'm catching them on the playing field,
Yep.
and they come up after, like, I'll remember them that way.
Sure.
Right.
In fact, when I was at Bishop Eustace doing a lacrosse game last week, I was there to interview Jordan Rossler, who's our West Point commit, and I heard parents on the other side kind of talking to one of the players, and it was Josette DeGore. And I remembered I had talked to her during field hockey season when we did a story about their program celebrating a milestone and however many years it was. And I just remembered the interview. She was just one of those kids that, just was such a good talker and just a sweet kid. And, I was able to pretty much remember everything about her, so it made the conversation a lot easier. I wasn't fishing for things,
Well, some of those, I mean, in addition to being amazing athletes, like when you hear their backstories, was it Patrick the other day, whose all family is all in the military?
Right,
Like
yeah.
those
Oh,
kinds
yeah.
of things stick out.
Yeah.
Or like the young woman you're talking about, and she loves sports, but what's also even more important to her is doing for others and her faith.
Yeah.
And like those are the ones that they
stick.
they stick and they
What
get
is
in your
it?
heart.
It's the kicker for the Ravens is like a opera level singer.
Oh, no
like
kidding.
Justin Tucker. Yeah, he's record holder for field goal kicking. I mean, but like one of the special things is he's a really good singer. So like the big networks, that's like the stuff that they look for, because the athlete stuff. Okay, there's any number that do the same thing that you do, but if you've got a motivation or something special, it carries you, or even
we just
adds
had
to
our Broadway kid story a couple weeks
did.
ago.
Which one's that?
Tell them that story, how you found out about it, though, because that is classic.
So the pitcher, he's mostly known as a pitcher, but he plays the field as well, Tate Darius from Gloucester Catholic. I went to go see the Rams play the one day, and I wasn't sure who I was going to interview. Usually I talk to the coach beforehand, and he had mentioned Tate, and because I was kind of looking for a different angle. This is the team I've seen a lot, so I've done stories on most of the kids, and the coach just says, he's going to the University of Miami, good kid, So I interview him after the game after he throws a no-hitter, of course. And we start doing the story about how he threw his first no-hitter since like he was 12 years old or something like that. It was a good interview, but like still lacking something, because I took a quick peek and I did see he had been written about in other publications. And so I was like, I don't really have that much, but I saw his dad talking to him right before I interviewed him. So as I was walking in my car, I figured I'd go say hi to the parents.
Yeah.
And they kind of pulled me too when they asked where I was from. And, I said, I just love talking to your son. He has such confidence and a great smile the whole time he's on the mound. He's just kind of such a presence. And they were like, oh, yeah, well, that's probably from when he was a child actor on Broadway. I'm like, I got to go talk to your son again.
You guys got 15 minutes?
Yeah, so I talked to the parents for a good 15 minutes and then went back and talked to Tate, and we got a really fun story out of it that no one else had.
And we put the links to, Mark sent me the links to the YouTube, so we hyperlinked that article.
Oh, that's incredible.
So his performances.
Yeah, let's just, no hitters, great. But you were on Broadway? Excuse me? Yeah.
That's the thing we'll remember about him forever, you're saying,
I love that came last, though. You're like, I'm sorry, excuse me, what?
And how nonchalant they were. Oh, that's probably because, he was once elected president of the United States. But anyway, the no-hitter. No, I'd like to go back to the other thing. That brings up a question that I've always had, because I did a little bit of like reporting in college or studied in my communications degree, studied journalism, and had to do some project where you would go to, interview school or interview, professor or coaches. I did a couple of the sports things because of my angle. How did you get to that ability to approach the coach or approach the parents? And, I grew up as a coach's son, so I could go pretty much anywhere, in terms of access. But on the flip side, like, I would have trouble going up to the coach before the game and saying, "Hey, when you're done, need a minute for this." They're so or I feel like they're so focused. Is that practice? How do you kind of get into that?
I think it's just kind of woven in there. I was a nervous little guy when I first started, and it was tough because you just see these like bigger than life people sometimes, like as coaches, and they're barking orders at people, and it can be intimidating. But I just learned that there's never been a bad thing that's ever happened from approaching somebody before a game or parents or sometimes you get knucklehead parents, but usually if it's the kid you're already going to interview, it's good. You just find out these little things.
Right. And I guess the worst thing is, no, not right now, or stop by later or something. To that effect, right?
I can't remember the last time that's happened. I mean, there's sometimes where maybe I didn't approach a coach because I could just see they were extremely busy, before a game, or, if I got there not as early as I wanted to. That happens.
That's the other part. Yeah. Because when I did the basketball games, I knew you could go to the scorer's table at the different times and just get the names or get the points. That was easy. Because that's just another, for me, that was just another person, right? That was someone volunteering or student manager or something. They were on my level. But, I going to school in North Jersey, Bob Hurley was a big proponent up there at St. Anthony's, and watching his son, they kept cutting to him during the NCAA tournament, and there was still, it's been 15 years since I was in college, and I got nervous seeing the father, because he was just that intimidation. You knew him from being this larger than life character, and I'd see him walking around the city or by the track facilities that also had a gym in it, so he would have been very approachable, but you set that mystique for them, and it was always harder. So I never liked when the St. Anthony's games came up, because I was like, nope, not me. I'm not doing that. I'm not going up to coach early.
The one person I haven't yet, and because it caught me off guard. I don't know why, because I knew this going in, but when I was covering Holy Spirit girls lacrosse last year, it was the state final game, and they're all warming up, and I'm just watching this assistant coach, this enormous man, warming up the goalie, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, this guy's a monster. And then I put two and two together that the head coach is Kylie Primo, whose father is Keith Primo, the former Flyer. And I'm a huge Flyers fan, and I just didn't feel it was like appropriate to go up and fanboy on him or something like that when we're going to have a a championship game. But Keith was one of my favorite players, so I do hope to catch them one day. A little, catch them off
just on the side,
say hi or whatever.
Just by the way,
But Kylie was a great athlete herself. She went to Bishop Eustace actually, but she where Caden also went. He's in the NHL as a goaltender. But Kylie was a phenomenal lacrosse player, and she's a great coach. I mean, they're back-to-back years of getting into the state final.
That's amazing.
She's doing a great job there. And they could get back there again this year.
How about any of the other schools on our end for the girls lacrosse?
The girls lacrosse, I mean, they're the main one to watch because they've been there so much. But Bishop Eustace is pretty good. I don't know if they have state finals aspiration type thing, but they're a good program. And let me think. Our Lady of Mercy's having a pretty decent showing this year. Camden Catholic and Paul VI, both solid.
Does that? I mean, I know it doesn't translate, conceptually in terms of, but like they have this Camden Catholic has this wonderful field hockey. I mean, nationally recognized field hockey team. Yeah. I know it's obviously different, but do you see some crossover in those types of sports where there's field dimensions? Sort of like the styles are a little bit different.
Yeah,
obviously,
they call them stick sports.
Right,
so
yeah,
a lot of the kids do play the same sports, but I wouldn't say that many do for Camden Catholic, though. I don't see too many of the field hockey girls because, I mean, a lot of them are Division I commits.
I was going to say. So they're,
you don't want to play this rugged sport and maybe get hurt right before you're going to college.
Yeah. Or you play on a club team to stay
a lot of them
fit,
are playing
something
club,
like that. Yeah.
Or running track and field or something like that. Like Olivia Bent-Cole, our great, she ran track. She didn't play field hockey.
Right, yeah.
Her brother plays lacrosse, though, for Camden Catholic.
Oh, for Camden Catholic.
Yeah. He's a good player.
You mentioned her. It's like because after they graduate, like you follow their career for a couple years, and then they go, and like I'm sad to see them go because it's exciting to see how they're progressing in their sports at the school. I mean, excited because they go on to something even greater.
Bigger,
they just continue to grow. But I'm like,
she was a rock star at Northwestern this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they won I think the Big Ten. They were so good.
And the guard for Paul VI at Notre Dame, she had a great freshman year, and she's
like one of the top 5 players in the country already.
Yeah, and you
We're
follow
talking about Hannah.
Yeah, Hannah Hidalgo.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like my one son's old enough now; he loves watching like Sports Center and stuff, and so they're showing the tournament, and she was on because she's so good, she's a focal point for the other team's defense. So like for them to say, and she only had 15 points or something, whatever she had in that one game, and I said, I said to my son, I'm like, she went to Paul VI, she's from our area, and and the eyes light up, because it's so cool to have this connection, and so I can say I remember when this is dating me a little bit, but when DeJuan Wagner was at Camden High, and he would play Camden Catholic when I was there. And I mean, he went on to the NBA, and you could say like, oh yeah, no, I knew him when he was in high school, and to see their careers flourish is incredible. So now seeing all these names just be able to go to bigger things, it's incredible.
Still a big Hidalgo presence at PVI.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Her brother Judah plays. He's a very good player. I think he was their top scorer on the boys
for this
team.
year. Yeah,
and the dad's still coaching the girls team.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, you would hope that. I mean, it's got to be hard. I think when you it's unbelievable that she can go to such a school like Notre Dame, but I get for the parents, to be like, okay, are we moving to South Bend or are we staying here? And just going to games, like how do you do that? I mean, I was fortunate. My cousin is a assistant coach on Duquesne University's basketball team, and they made a little bit of a run through their conference tournament to get into the NCAAs, and my aunt and uncle were like traversing the country to go to these regionals and stuff, and and he's just a coach. I mean, he's not even playing in the game, it's such a travel culture, you if you're into it. I mean, unless you're going to be there for every game, it's a lot of travel. So for him to stay and kind of keep that program going and still try to check out her games is great.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it. If he's watching on the bench and has the games on his phone,
someone's got an
know.
update for him at halftime. So you mentioned this one's fascinating to me, the rowing. So you mentioned I think it's so cool to go watch. I mean, to be there, I think is incredible. And, obviously we're not too far from Cooper River, which is a renowned area for this in this region. So what's that like for the high schools on our end?
It's fun to watch. It's more fun to be on the boat, though. I did it in high school.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Did you?
I was a very bad rower for Father Judge High School, and I was a coxswain my freshman year because I was like 70 pounds or something.
So you're the guy in the front, right?
It was the back then.
Okay.
It depends. They make them now where you can be in the front if it's like a 4-boat. But I was in the 8s and I was in the back, and you steer the boat and you bark out orders and get yelled at by the coach for nearly crashing the boat into the dock. And I was joking.
Is that what it's called? The 8s?
That's the number of guys in the boat.
Yeah, 8 rowers, and you could have an 8-boat with 8 rowers and a coxswain, or there's 4 boats with or without coxswains. They're different things. And then they have doubles and they have singles.
So 8 seems to be a theme in your life, from your son's list to number 8 to 8 in the row.
There you go, tying it all in. But
anyway, I interrupted you.
It's a great sport. It's one of the best workouts you can get. I mean, it works just so hard. It's one of the most grueling things you can do.
Yeah.
But I got to go down there and see Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
The girls' team. We have a girl, Taya Anderson. I'm sorry. I'm
going to Stanford.
She's going to
Correct.
Stanford. I think
yeah.
I might have just messed up her name, but I know her first name's Taya.
I'll get on the research.
First name basis with the kids. You know?
We'll get to the corrections department at the end.
Go ahead.
But it was fun kind of catching up with the team down there, and they were a little photo shy at first.
Okay.
You know, they were like, "Who's this guy?" You know, taking photos. No one's going down there to usually take photos of them, but it was a fun day on the river, and they got a real good team. Taya's on they're 4 with Coxon, and they just won this week. I forget which. It was one of the Jersey races because I caught them down on the Schuylkill.
Okay.
Did I get the name right?
You did.
I did. All right.
Yeah.
So I was at home being back on the Schuylkill River because that's where we rode.
I was going to say, is that where you guys?
Judge.
Yeah.
So they were doing the Manny Flick regattas. There's a series like every week you go down there and kind of row against different schools, and then. Now that they get into the real competitive part of the season with like the cities and the Catholics and Stotesbury Regatta, which is like one of the biggest high school races in the country. Comes to down on Kelly Drive. It's pretty awesome.
Did you read and or see The Boys in the Boat? The book that they made into a movie. Okay, so there's a great book called The Boys in the Boat. That's I want to say the 36 Olympics.
Okay.
And it's an American team. At the time, they picked university teams to represent the country. So it was the full. You would
the whole
you would
school,
place, and then it would be so in this case, it was the University of Washington rowing team, the eights, won and represented the country. And it's all these guys who were like downtrodden from the Depression and all that. So it was a wonderful book. I'm not going to remember the author off the top of my head, but they just made it into a movie. George Clooney's production group did it.
Cool.
And it was this. It's one of those like sort of quote unquote obscure sports that you read about that these guys. The reason they won, they were the toughest. They didn't give up, and it is one of those grueling, especially then, probably technology is probably even in a sport like that, so different now in terms of how fast you can make the boat. But I really enjoyed it.
I was always worried about crashing one of those wooden tank boats that we had at Father John. You should see what they're in now. These things they're like more than most people's cars. You're trusting like a freshman to not hit this into a dock. It's crazy.
Fiberglass, right? Like the boathouse down at Cooper River. I think you've probably seen it.
I walk there like every day.
Yeah.
I love watching I stopped my walking just sometimes just to watch them row because it's impressive.
It's a beautiful building. I mean, they're all along the Schuylkill, but it's like for us to have a quality one like that, it's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, like I grew up in Texas. There was no rowing because there's no water basically where I am. So to like see that here, I was like, that's really cool. Yeah.
So I have to ask, because we had a good time with this last time. Have you done any of your fun questions lately?
No, I kind of put that aside for a little bit because just with everything in my own personal life, it was a little too time consuming. But we'll resurrect that again.
Yeah.
I know we threatened to steal it too, and then we didn't.
Yeah,
but
I did start thinking of some new questions.
That's what I was going to ask. We were joking about the song because quite literally after the podcast, I went back to my office and I downloaded the song I think that we talked about from karaoke. I was like, nope, have to have it. And then listened to it about 4 times on the way home. And I was like, yep, I'm
Make
back.
sure I still know the words.
Yeah. I'm like, nope, got it all. This is good.
Yep. And everybody should check out Mark's social media, because what we're talking about with the videos is like sometimes Mark on Instagram, he'll ask the students questions that have nothing to do with sports, like what's your favorite superhero, or what was the song that it's a guilty pleasure for you that's actually your parents' song.
Right.
Yeah.
Try to embarrass them a little bit. But they came up with some good stuff. I was always laughing so hard at some of the answers I got from these kids. It's fun.
Hey, throw in the parent one now. Now that you can say, hey, just give me your top 10. What are your parents fall in your top 10? Let's put them right on the spot.
Right.
Just want to ask, throw your top 10 family members right now.
That would be amazing. You should definitely do that.
We have a lot of family, and on both sides of my family and my wife's families. And so we got into this discussion last night about aunts and great aunts and all that. And it was the favorite things. And I said, what is the criteria? I don't understand this.
I know.
Like
second
where
cousins
does,
removed.
you're like,
and,
because that guy always has basketballs, or baseballs for me to play with when we go over the house. Okay, so that's we got it. Okay.
He always has jelly beans. He's my favorite.
Yeah.
Which one has the pool?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, after you start getting rested up from having, the newborn around and everything, we look forward to seeing the videos back.
Yes,
for
probably
sure.
in the fall. I think the fall's when we really nice and fresh from a little bit of a break over the summer.
Yeah.
Hit the fall pretty hard, so maybe we'll try for that.
Awesome. Well, Mark, we're very excited that you were on. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing about your family and about, covering our sports.
Yeah.
And everybody, make sure you continue to pick up the Catholic Star Herald. That has 2 to 3 pages per issue. Athlete of the month, when I get the right month. And so thank you, Mike.
Yes, thank you. This was if it's an excuse to talk about sports, I'll be there because I'm not allowed to do it enough in my house. Although, like I said, my older son is much into it, but he's I think of the many jobs that he might have. I think journalism is in his future because I can't just say the Phillies won 7-5.
Yeah.
Okay, who hit the home runs? How did they score the runs? What were the pitches? I mean, it was all these things, and I open up the ESPN app and I say, here,
Watch highlights.
go ahead and look. You can look at the stat sheet.
You can hire Mark to teach him how to write sports.
Yeah, there you go.
He could be the next sports reporter.
Something in it, he would love it because it would be something in sports and it would be something that we would be happy that he's doing that keeps him around here. So be good. Well, thank you very much. Look forward to all the coverage. I always enjoy reading it, and anytime you can come in and chat with me about sports, I'll be here for sure.
Perfect. Look forward to coming back.
All right, thanks everybody, and have a great week.